Ah, dear.
Hey. I'm Pfizer. The kids.
They were doing their best. The answer.
You ever go Illuminati party before?
For me, no.
Yeah.
We're not even them not really invite me to the come here and do it.
You never go a dinner in blanket before, you know?
No. I'm not even in the way they call them in the way in the like no politician like large. I'm not even in
Large. Yeah, but
and they've never invited me. I don't know. They've never,
so you don't get invite.
they've never sent me an invite yet.
We get an invite.
This youth and
Yeah, but yeah, get a ring.
Yeah. We got an invite last week.
yeah.
So
So to the lodge,
no.
To the party.
Illuminati party.
to the Illuminati.
Calling it that.
No, first of all, you know,
Yes, it was that.
to which party that is?
It's the Rambla. We don't do
But it's
what.
not Illuminati, is it?
Yeah, no, it's not.
No.
I mean, do want to look for the story. I said, oh, my mother really appreciate for that.
No, but my mother is not my mother. We prayed and we all prayed.
Lord of Jesus.
My mother ever hear and watch this.
So we take her out for Mother's Day. And like, she said, son, I have some concern. I saw a video. I said, Lord, that movie, first of all, I said, don't watch the videos. Don't watch it. No, but I saw it and I'm concerned. I saw a video about the going to Illuminati party. It's a movie.
Is it true?
Yeah, just imagine all that a girl at the church. No. You know, ever since this stuff got church, you get the Illuminati stuff like here. Yeah.
My mother will pray on the whole thing. My mother show up and pray for them.
Yeah.
I be careful. I'm around for this.
Yeah. She free, my man, mommy. It wasn't that in the, I was just joking. It was just a joke.
Sometimes jokes suck.
Yeah.
Talk about dark
You don't want to brand no go to come in one day, but that one. But try. These are Christian in the old. Anything when I pray that kind of make me uncomfortable. Is it true? Same. We have too much question and you know answer to go reach God right now. When I solve cancer, you don't anything that go reach if God exists. Too much things to me think about. So I just hold on back that from the barn and say that.
Yeah.
And so I don't really expose myself to the other things that are confusing, right? Come here, try to fix housing, you know what I mean? So when we don't fix that in the country good and everybody nice, go see about the God thing, but it might get too late like that. My mother now, I'm growing at that and me never think she foolish. I say that God work enough things and sometimes 2 + 2 = 40 to me. You understand? I'm not say God intervene. So I just hold that and say that me work.
Yeah.
You know, some don't really go, we don't really accept them.
Don't
Can't
say.
drink and drink blood and you know, fall and
Chicken.
yeah.
Farming. Notes.
Yeah. Take them, you know, I'm a child.
Yo, the end.
Yeah.
You want to get your reaction to that video? I would do a lot of reactions.
Where you go find now?
And so what I go on and know. The party them get advanced and all. You know what I mean? Can't my shield. Money full of them.
Money full of
Yeah, my shield.
Okay, we have seen and we have heard from Damion Crawford, right? In his response about, serving God, right? And the God question, the God philosophy. And we've heard Damion Crawford express himself quite well and quite explicitly that he does not really think that he needs to put God first. I think that, there are more pertinent issues on which he needs to reflect, that of housing and that of fixing Jamaica, his country, before he can, place any sort of attention on the God question. He's not so much interested in God at this point in his life. Now, this is Damion Crawford, the flip-flopper, right? Because let's look at something that Damion Crawford said in a Twitter that he actually posted in 2014, I believe. Let's look at what he says here. And that is why Jamaicans have to be very careful of our politicians, because they are flip-floppers, right? And they only do things, they pander to the crowd. They do things to please their constituents, right? It's not about standing up for principles, right? And demonstrating principled actions. So we have, this is Damion Crawford's post. Now it was former Twitter, now it's X, right? It's the Paul X. So all of a sudden, everybody are atheist and agnostic and undecided and non-believer who no need fee, and you can call this word, stop it, back in Jamaica, right? So here in 2014, Damion Crawford was acting as a great actor, was acting as if he really believed in God, right? And he was chiding Jamaican citizens and Jamaica at large for giving up their faith in God, right? And becoming atheistic and agnostic. And this was something that was interesting because if you look at it superficially, you would have thought that he meant what he said. And perhaps at that time, he might have meant what he said. But let's fast forward to 2024 on The Fix, the program that he was on recently. He's claiming that he thinks that God should not occupy. Well, that is what he intimated, that is what he implied, that God should not occupy first place. After you've dealt with your career, after he has answered the cancer question and perhaps know how to cure cancer, then he can talk about God. So God should be put at the side, right? This is where our society is going. And this is a very popular politician, whether you like it or not, in Jamaica. If you should read the comments after the program was finished, was aired, that's The Fix, the program in which he participated with in which Damion Crawford participated, you will read a lot of comments saying, for example, that this guy is a genius and that he has great ideas and that he is a revolutionary and all these wonderful words. But I was fascinated by the word genius. And I had to ask him because I listened to some of the podcasts. I could not listen to everything. Damion Crawford does not attract my attention. He does not captivate my attention as many people in Jamaica think. They think he's this charismatic guy, but he does not really attract my attention. I think that Damion Crawford needs a lot of maturity. He needs to read more and he needs to be more critical of himself. He needs to do an introspective look at himself to see where his, strengths and his weaknesses lie. Apart from that, if he does these things, I think that he perhaps will one day make an effective or become a very good politician. He needs to put God first, who is the source of all wisdom and understanding. And if he thinks he's searching for a cure for cancer, then God is the person that he should consult because he is the maker of the human body. He is the creator of heaven and earth. And I'm wondering if Damion Crawford has forgotten that, if he has knocked his head somewhere. But perhaps, maybe he has not. Maybe he's again just pandering to the base. Because in fact, many of our young people in Jamaica are no longer Christians. They do not share that perspective with persons of my generation and our parents' generation. So they have a disconnect because the school system essentially has indoctrinated our children and young adults into believing that God no longer matters, that he's no longer the creator, that, the state or the idols that we have set up in our lives are the ones who should occupy our time, right? So Damion Crawford, for example, is on record of saying that, there is no sort of correlation between dancehall music and violence, right? He thinks it's just an art and that we need not to look at, we need not to even investigate it, right? We should not even expend any effort into investigating whether or not there is a correlation between the violence that we're seeing in Jamaica and dancehall music. Now, this is something that is interesting also. An article that was written in the Jamaican Gleaner by this self-described agnostic atheist. I don't know who he is. That is Michael Abrahams, because he pretends to be like he has the, some sort of authority on religion and on the Bible when he is really an ignorant person. But, so suffice it to say, he wrote this article in response to Damion Crawford's statements on the fact that Jamaica, is now in an atheistic society, and that this was written in 2014 because the statement on X or Twitter, then Twitter, were made on. That statement was made in 2014. All right, so let's look now at what he says. And this is Damion Crawford and God Bless the Jamaicans. And this was written by Michael Abrahams. All right, so we have Damion Crawford, Minister of State in the Ministry of Tourism and Entertainment, while addressing an audience in Toronto, recently stated that his greatest concern is that Jamaicans are losing their fear of God. Right? He also tweeted, all of a sudden, everybody are atheist and agnostic and undecided and non-believer only need faith. Stop it. That I'm not Jamaica. Right? Following this, in a response to an open letter from Dr. K. Miller, he stated that this negative movement away from God was a platform for one, a decline in the collective social conscience of the nation. Number two, the clouding of what is accepted as wrong versus right. And third, a reduction in the risk perceived by the perpetrators of negative actions, right? So these words are coming from Damion Crawford, who is now, it seems, to be an avowed atheist or agnostic. I don't know what really he is, but who really knows who Damion Crawford is, right? Because Damion Crawford is a flip-flopper, one who panders to his base, right? One who pretends as if he has all the solutions for Jamaican problems, all the solutions to solve and to deal with our problems, right? To fix our intractable problems when he really does not, right? Because we know that Damion Crawford really has not said anything that is profound. If you listen, when you listen to his interviews, nothing that he says is really of consequence. But that is what I wanted to show, and I wanted you to probably comment on your reactions to this sort of view. And I'm sure that some of you will have different perspectives, different opinions. But whatever you have, whatever your opinion is, I think what I find most interesting is that Damion Crawford, who should know better, who should be more authentic, as many people think he is, finds himself flip-flopping a lot of times. So he should tell us what really has he learned since 2014. Why is God now going to be in second position, perhaps third position, in last position? Because he's suggesting that there are lots of other things that he has to solve, he has to fix before he can deal with the God question, right? The question of the existence of God. He does not deny, let us be very clear on that. He's not denying the existence of God, but it's almost like he is, because if God is going to be put right at the last in your life, right, and then you don't believe in him. Because if you believe in God, if you believe in God as a creator, as the creator of heaven and earth, of the creator of, or that creator, I should say, of the universe, right? It means, therefore, that you know that he should be put first in your life. Because if he's the creator, that means that he has the intellectual property right over everything, including our mental capacities, right? So I don't understand Damion Crawford. And the fact that the hosts of the fix, they just sat there and everything is just like laughter, and they make lightweight of everything, including the Illuminati party and whatever, even though that was supposedly a joke. We don't know if it's a joke or it was something that they were trying to hide, right? We don't know that. But Damion Crawford is also on record saying that he's not a part of the lodge, he's not a Freemason, and perhaps very hard to think that he's not, because when you are deeply in bed with politicians, when you have positions of that high standing, lots of them are compelled to be a part of that sort of institution, right? So it's very, very, because they have to, commit themselves to certain forms of secrecy, that government operations, right? That's what it's about. Our governments are not transparent as we think they are, because they are involved with lots of secret organizations. and fraternal brotherhoods and fraternal organizations that they have to commit their lives to. And these organizations form the core belief systems of a lot of our politicians. And many of them have to renounce their belief in God, right? Many of these politicians have to renounce their belief in God, because when you get to the highest level, when you start at the lowest level, you really don't understand what's going on until you get to the highest degrees, right? And then you realize that these people do not believe in God. So maybe, perhaps, Damion Crawford is hiding something from us. Maybe he's a part of a lodge and has gotten to the highest rank. And as a result of that, he no longer believes in God, right? But I think that his constituents, well, perhaps they too don't believe in God, because we are now nurturing a godless society. And there is an element of spiritual darkness that is pervasive in the land of Marcus Mosiah Garvey, right? Jamaica is becoming a very dark country, dark country in every sense of the word. And our politicians or leaders are the ones who are sort of imbibing that darkness. They're encouraging, they're nurturing, as it were, that darkness. And then when something happens, then they begin to talk about prayer, and they're having prayer breakfast. Now, with whom do they think they're playing with? Or with whom do they think they're playing? I shouldn't use the word with again. With whom do they think they are playing, right? That is the question. They think that God can be trifled with, right? I think that many Jamaicans or people in the world think that God can be trifled with, and that he is not the all-powerful being that he is. This was an interesting conversation, and I think that Damion Crawford is sincere in what he's saying there, right? He does believe that God does not need to occupy his time, his energy, his effort, his thinking capacities at this time, right? And I really wonder about our national anthem, Eternal Father, bless our land, guard us with thy mighty hand, right? A prayer that was actually penned for a national anthem. And it doesn't mean anything right at the moment. Or motto, before God and all mankind, right? We had that sort of Christian connection. Now, being Christian and having Christian leaders do not mean, or leaders who believe in God, do not, it does not mean, rather, does not mean that we are going to be a theocracy, right? A belief in God does not signify that we are a theocracy. What it does mean is that we acknowledge that God is the sovereign of the state, right? And God being the sovereign of the state does not mean that we are going to coerce somebody to follow a particular religion. That is not what the Bible preaches, because the Bible says whomsoever will. What it means is that we believe that as creator of heaven and earth, that he is the one who should lead our nation, because God's way is the best way, right? And the Bible says that righteousness exalteth a nation, but sin is a reproach to any nation. And when I say by reproach, it means the downfall, that it is going to fall, and fall shamefully, right? In a shameful manner, Jamaica is going to fall if we have leaders of the ilk of Damion Crawford, right? We've got, and that's why we lack the vision, right? And without a vision, the people will perish. And Jamaica and Jamaicans, at this juncture, we can see that there is no vision, and our people are perishing daily. That is a literal meaning of that biblical verse, right? That biblical statement that without vision, the people will perish. But this is a trend, it's a worldwide trend where young people find it fashionable not to believe in God. And I must say that the mothers and fathers, also a lot of them of my generation, are no longer taking their children to church. And they no longer have the Bible in their homes as the primordial, the most important book to be read and to be studied. And as a result of that, your children are going to grow up with the values that are going to be atheistic and agnostic. And if you think atheistic means that you don't believe in any religion, because atheism, even though ironically, even though it means that this, you don't belong to any religion, but a lot of times you'd be surprised that these people worship something, right? Either their homes or the state or a person or an ideology. And they will die for that state or they will die for that ideology. Right? And talk about Mark Golding's double citizenship, right? Talk about that and that he's not committed to Jamaica. Let me tell you something. When you have people flip-flopping like Damion Crawford, one time he's saying that religion is important and Jamaicans should regard religion and should not be atheistic and agnostic. Another time he's an atheist or agnostic and you don't know what he is or who he is, right? That person lacks balance and lacks stability. And that is the person who will betray trust because they do not have that consistency that you'd like to see in an effective leader, right? This is what happens to our country. And a lot of our leaders, a lot of our Jamaican leaders are unstable. They lack stability. And if you talk about the Bruce Golding, he's also one of them, a great flip-flopper. You do not know really what they believe in. They believe in something when they want to garner as many votes, and then as soon as the votes are garnered or achieved, then they move to another ideology. And how can we have men or women lead us when they lack stability, when there is no consistency in what they say or in what they believe? And I'm not saying now that we're perfect beings. I'm not suggesting that we cannot explore. But what would have contributed to the change in Damion Crawford after his statement made in 2014 about Jamaica being and chiding the country for being such an atheistic society? What would have changed now in 2024, in which he finds himself putting God in the last position? Because this is not second, that God is the second position. God is in the last position until he accomplishes and achieves his career objectives, his career and his professional objectives. He thinks that it is not necessary to consult God. It's not necessary to think about God, the question of his existence. But his mother, he says, is an avid Christian and one who serves God, and she's not happy that he is not doing that. And he's not renouncing, as I'm saying, the faith. But when you find yourself in that position, eventually he might one day renounce his faith in God, right? Something that you have to think about. And for those of you who are so excited about Damion Crawford, and some of you might be Christians, you've got to rethink your position about Damion Crawford. First of all, you have to pray for him and pray that God will endow him with wisdom and knowledge and understanding, because Christ is the source of all knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, be they scientific, be they political, be they economic. He is the source of all wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, right? And Damion Crawford is not alone. I talked to you about Marlene Malahoo Ford. I spoke to you about her and her affiliation with the WEF. That's the World Economic Forum. And that organization is also an atheistic organization, right? Klaus Schwab does not believe in God, right? And she's a young global leader. And she's the one who is at the helm of forming or reshaping, as it were, our constitution. The same Marlene, who you think is so, refined and charming. You've got to be careful of these leaders. And some of you are saying, no, she's not. She's just trying to apply the skills that she's learned from that. It doesn't work like that. And you've got to do your own research. You've got to read about the World Economic Forum, because you'll be happy, right? And have nothing. You'll have nothing and be happy. That's the mantra coming from the World Economic Forum. You will have nothing and you'll be happy. Now, not we, but you, because they're not included, because they are the elite of the elites. They are the elite of the elites. And you've got to do your research. And very soon, these information that I'm presenting to you, information on the WEF, will not be accessible. So you've got to really educate yourself and educate your children and your grandchildren about these institutions, about these godless organizations, because they're not healthy and they do not have healthy ideologies, and their agendas are not democratic in any sense of the word, right? They're not democratic. But because you like your leaders to be affiliated with organizations that you think are prestigious, then you will laud Marlene's work, the work that she's doing, not realizing that her position right there is something that is going to threaten our freedoms. And what more effective manner to threaten our freedom by having somebody to change our constitution, to change our laws? Because remember, I told you that a nation speaks through its laws, right? That is how a nation speaks. And if you want to have young global leaders like Marlene Marlahu Ford, then you put her at that level, where she is now the Minister of Legal and Constitutional Affairs. That's the position she occupies. And we don't know if that position is temporary or permanent, right? Because when these people make up these new things and these new ministries, you've got to really ask, and who is really funding these ministries? And do they have people that are non-Jamaican who are actually being paid? For example, the lawyer that is in Texas that is helping to reshape and to revise our Jamaican constitution, how much are they paying him? And is that coming from Jamaican taxpayers' money? I mean, a poor country and a professor at the University of Texas, of Texas in Austin, right? Can we afford to pay that man, right? While many Jamaicans are going to bed hungry or lack the proper nutrition because food prices are so exorbitant in Jamaica. We've got to think about these important matters, and we're not thinking about them, and our journalists are not presenting these matters to you in the way how they should be presented, right? I don't want to hear anything about Mark Golding's dual citizenship, because there are lots of other things that are happening. And even Mark Golding, on a program that he was on TVJ, right? He intimated that there are other members of parliament who have dual citizenship, and they're part of the Commonwealth, right? Because there is nothing, according to what I'm hearing and I'm gathering, that there is nothing illegal about being a member, having dual citizenship when you are members or you're citizens or you're a citizen of a nation that is a part of the Commonwealth, that forms the Commonwealth. So let us say that I have citizenship in Canada and also in Jamaica. Then nothing is wrong with that dual citizenship, because Canada is a member, is a bona fide member of the Commonwealth. So it's not illegal. what they're playing is politics. Now, we can decide, the decision can be made if we want to change that rule. But until we change that rule, we can't apply it politically and weaponize it on our political enemies. Because remember now, when we do that with our politicians, the ones that we hate, the ones that we don't like, then it can also be weaponized. The same rule can also be weaponized against citizens of Jamaica, right? Be careful what you think, or be careful of how you treat your enemies, because the same weapon can be used to also kill you when it's appropriate or when the time is right. Right? You've got to be careful. I wasn't, I stood and missed also when I was listening to the interview that was done with Mark Golding on TBJ with Simone and that other lady. I forgot her name. I'm sorry about forgetting her name, but Simone and wow, I forgot her name. But the other lady was asking, not Simona, was asking Mark Golding, the fact that Mark Golding declared to both of them that yes, he is a citizen of Britain and also of Jamaica. He has dual citizenship. He does have two passports, right? The other lady was asking Mark Golding, the other hostess of the program, was asking Mark Golding, what passport do you travel with? Do you have to be so invasive? Right? If he has told you that he's traveled or he has two passports, you don't need to know which one he uses for what or what country. That's none of our business. The fact of the matter is that he has declared that he does have dual citizenship, and that should suffice. He is speaking the truth. And we talk about inclusivity and inclusion and diversity, and we talk about it because when it's convenient to us, right? So isn't Mark Golding a Jamaican? Should we think that Jamaica is inclusive? It is what? What would we say? Out of many, one, right? We say that we are a pluralistic society and we believe in pluralism. But when it comes on to nationality, oh, no, 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 no. Even though, yes, we say that in our constitution, that we believe in national pluralism, right? And racial pluralism. But when it is not convenient, we don't believe in it. So as far as Mark Golding is concerned, because he does not represent the majority in terms of his ethnic background, he's not Jamaican. He's not an authentic Jamaican, right? Now, how are we going to argue like that? How are we going to argue like that? And, one of the things I realized when you go back to Jamaica, for those of us who have lived out of Jamaica, you go back there and they behave to that you're not Jamaican and you should not come back. They make these sort of statements to suggest that you're not welcome back there because you were not there for some years. So they don't even want you to be back. And perhaps that's why they're killing a lot of these returning residents, those who have retired and made Jamaican their home. Because there is this deep animosity, hostility toward Jamaicans who have traveled and have returned to their native country, to their country of birth, right? Go for a job and you'll see how they behave. Why are you back? Why are you here? Why did you come back? Why did you come back to Jamaica? They don't want you there, right? Talk about commitment, because somehow there is something that, you shouldn't be there and you shouldn't be occupying any position. Well, Mark Golding has lived in Jamaica all his life, apart from the brief time that he studied abroad. He's lived there all his life. He says that his father, who is not, or was not, because he's now deceased, right? His father, who was not born in Jamaica, who was British, received OD, Jamaica's highest, I think, local or native award. Right? He actually received that. He was an OD. So why did the government of Jamaica give him an OD, knowing that he was not Jamaican? Right? We can't behave like that, people. We can't really reason like that. Let us be rational. Let us be fair in terms of our criticism. And I'm not pro barcoding. I would be the first one if they were talking about his alleged participation in the FinSac debacle and whatever decisions he might have made or supported that caused that or created that sort of catastrophe in Jamaica during the 1990s. I would be the first one to say, yes, let's go. Not only for him, though, right? Because we also have to be fair. We should go for all the other people who were equally as culpable in bringing about the devastation of Jamaica's economy in the 1990s during the FinSac saga, the FinSac debacle, right? But now we're talking about double citizenship and we are questioning his Jamaicanness. How can you question the man's Jamaicanness when he's married to a Jamaican, lived there, has his children, is immersed in Jamaica? He is Jamaican. And if he should go back to Great Britain, as much as he is a British citizen, he would be looked upon as a Jamaican because culturally and nationally he is Jamaican, right? Because he's lived all his life there. You can't look back at your father's or your mother's, heritage and think that that is what you are, because a lot of times that's not, because we know that there is a lot of fluidity when it comes on to nationalism and also cultural identities, right? You can be born in Jamaica, but you might have grown up in Spain. You're Spanish. You have connection by birth and your parents are Jamaicans, but if most of your life was spent in Spain or in Germany or in Switzerland or wherever you find yourselves, then you are who you are. You might be bi. Some people say you're bi, but sometimes you're not. Sometimes you're not even bi because you're not bicultural or you're not, because the fact of the matter is that sometimes you really have not immersed yourself in the other culture or in the culture of your parents. We need to have more discussions on this. And I think we are largely following North America and the sort of limited understanding of what culture and ethnicity and nationalism is. Because in the United States, people do not understand the difference between race and ethnicity and nationalism. So they talk about Jamaica, they think it's just black, right? It's black, it's a black culture. And they don't even know, they don't even understand what blackness stands for or what blackness is. What is blackness? What is whiteness? Right? We are who we are, and we are more textured and nuanced than just being black or being Jamaican or being, whoever you are. Right? We define ourselves, and I don't allow other people to define who I am. Right? Why are we challenging the man? Yes, challenge him, but challenge him about substantive issues. Substantive matters, not about something that is obvious as regards his national connection, because he is Jamaican in all sense of the word. But I just wanted to point out to you Damion Crawford's flip-flopping. And it seems to me if the whole, what should I say now, dual citizenship saga or controversy is not solved, that Damion Crawford might be the leader. If not during this term, he's certainly on his way to becoming the leader, the next leader of the People's National Party. And if Damion Crawford does not improve, right? If he doesn't mature, what a prime minister we're going to have. What a prime minister Jamaica is going to have. We've got to think seriously about these things, people, because Jamaica is losing, is fast losing its civility, right? Right now, we lack the civility. It's almost like it's a Butu country. It is a ghetto country. The way how we carry ourselves, the way how we express ourselves, the way how we articulate our points, the way how we reason. Because the whole matter of Mark Golding is a very debased reason. I give him props. I give Mark Golding the props. He is very contained because I would have been angered, right? He's really, really patient with the nonsense, this nonsensical debate that is going on in Jamaica, right? And I'm not, again, pro Mark Golding. I am not a fan of Mark Golding. I'm not a fan of anybody, right? But I am a fan of liberty. I am a fan of freedom of expression. I am a fan of rational thinking, right? And when I see nonsensical arguments and irrational thinking, I have to call it out. It's time now for Jamaicans to settle down and to think about serious matters, serious situations, because we are behind. We are far behind. We are way behind, and we are not as important on the world stage like we think we are, right? We are irrelevant on the world stage. We are irrelevant on the world stage. Move entertainment away, and Jamaica is really nothing. And what is entertainment? People dance and afterwards they forget you. They don't even know who you are, right? So wake up and stop this nonsense about dual citizenship. Yes, we must be a law-abiding country, but I'm suggesting here, you can't have some other parliamentarians having dual citizenship and then you are going to punish, you're going to castigate Mark Golding for having the same, right? That is not democracy. That is not fairness. That's not equity. That's not inclusion. That's not diversity. Thank you so much for joining. I look forward to uploading another video. I hope that you will like and you will share and you will subscribe. And hope to see you in another video. Adios. Ciao.